Okay, so we're just going to start off by separating things down the center. Then we're going to separate kind of a big section, thinking like low occipital area. I don't want this to be so small because I want to have a little more control. If I take such a tiny little baby section down here, I really don't have the weight to really establish the shape just yet. And we're going to be whittling through, so we need some weight to whittle through to get the texture. So we're starting off with kind of a large section, a little bit larger than if you were just doing, precision cutting, wet cutting. And there's like 2 steps to this with each cut. So we're starting off whittling. So we're going to break up the weight. I'll have her look down just a tiny bit, not quite that far. There we go. And then we're going to separate in 2. I want this length to be somewhere around here when it's done. So we're going to have to take the weight out higher than where we want the length to actually establish. So we're going to start up higher. And you can get close to this if you want. And we're going to whittle weight out. Skip a good bit of hair. We're whittling.
Oh, that feels like a good whittle.
Skip, what'd you say?
That feels like a good whittle.
It feels like a great whittle. We're really whittling. And now you can see we have all of this negative space in her hair. Like you can see all of this space that we have. And then that creates these little points for us to nibble off. That's what we're going to do. So we're taking one of those points. I'm condensing it down. I'm coming over the top. And then I'm just going to carve that out so that we get this little kind of petal. We want the hair to group together into a point. And you can see I've created all of my pieces to work with by taking the weight out in between. And then I'm just coming down. This is a visual guide because we don't actually hold on to the hair while we're doing it. We kind of put the scissor here, and the tip of the scissor dictates the length. So as I come down, we close, and where the scissor actually closes, that's where we get the length. I know I'm like getting a little bit of shadow here. Maybe we'll rotate a teeny bit more just so that you guys can see better. There we go. That should be better. Now we're gonna just keep on doing that. It's a long process. I think razor is a really direct and easy way to get these results. It's probably a faster way, but we need to be versatile. We can't just say, oh, we only do razor cutting, because how many times have we busted out a razor and had a client go like, oh, no, don't you touch me with that razor. I had a razor cut one time, and then I was in the hospital for a month. No, or whatever they think happened to them. So after you've got that rough drafted in, we're going to then come down and hold it in a little bit more of a traditional way. And with a vertical point cut, we're just going to clean it up and add definition to the shape. So we want this to have texture, but we don't want it to be random. I don't want there to be like 1 or 2 long hairs just poking out there. That's what's going to give it longevity, for it to still have definition in the shape. All right, so that's going to be our initial guide. And then we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. So we'll bring that down, combing down, keeping my elevation low. I don't want to lift this up as I cut it because I don't want to create like unwanted graduation in there. We have to start higher than where we want the guide. We whittle, skip, whittle, skip. Then we comb that out, and we can see it starts to create these little points, these little petals for us to work on. We condense the petal, we come over the top, come close to the scissor so you can see the movement, because the movement of the scissor is really important, maybe slightly off to the side of it, because what we do is we close and lift off the top. So we're carving. So you're slowly reducing that weight, creating these little bit of points as you go. So you're not closing on the way in, you're closing on the way up and out. So we condense this down, come down, we carve, just like that. Next one, we carve. You want to start higher than where you want the actual length to go, because you want to reduce the weight. It should start to taper the length in a bit. All right, and then we're coming back down with our vertical point cut to refine. I actually feel like this is just a teeny bit heavy right there, so we're going to go in a little bit deeper. And we want balance. My suggestion to you at home, you'll notice that I'm standing slightly off to the side. But when you're doing this in the salon, I want you to stand right in front of it so you can make sure that your balance is there. I'm just standing off to the side so we're not blocking the camera. So, taking our next section, about the same size. With this, the important thing is that you can see your guide underneath the section. If your section's too big, you're not going to be able to see your guide, and it's going to end up possibly getting longer or shorter. We'll just clip that out of the way. Try to keep her head in the same position. We put that tension, but not too much tension, just enough to control the hair, but not pull it tight so it, springs up on you. We whittle it from high in the hair, reducing that weight. We pinch, and then we come in and we carve that weight to a point, just like that. And you'll find a rhythm for it. It like starts off slow, but eventually, when you're feeling more confident with what you're doing, you can start to move a little bit more quickly. Do we have any questions on there? Anything anyone's asking?
We're just like trimming it, right?
No. Someone said, is this M-Chen?
It is M-Chen. You can tell by the back of her head. She's a very, very memorable back of her head. She just goes, we're just trimming it, right? All right, combing this next one down. I want to make sure I'm starting in the same place with all of this like weight removal first. So I don't want to start here and here and here on each section. Each one's starting just about at her shoulders, and then we're whittling that down, reducing the weight first. Some people will ask, is it okay to take the length first and then reduce the weight? I think that is fine, but the thing that we want to see are all of these groupings. And by taking the weight out, it provides these groups to work on. So you could do it afterwards, but you're going to get a little bit of a different result. It's not going to be quite as easy to work with. And we're just carving that out. Like eventually, once I'm like getting into areas with less weight, I can just do it in one. I can just carve right through and give us those little bit of points as we go. She's like, I want this to be soft. I want to be able to shake it out. I'm not going to want to have to style it. I want to, wash it once and then not have to wash it forever in her whole life after that. So that negative space, the softness is really going to help with that. If you do a precision line, something really blunt and strong, sometimes I feel like it loses the style if you're not really polishing it into that line. If a precision blunt line is done a little bit soft and undone, it looks wrong. It looks something is off to me. But if the line is already broken, then it can be anything. You can do nothing, you can do everything, and it will always look right. So, bringing this down again, we're going to have this. It's pretty repetitive.
We have a question. It's like, what angle is her head position?
Her head is her head is tilted slightly down.
But not too far down.
Yes, exactly. Not too far down, just a little bit down, so that I'm getting less of that underneath graduation poking out, but not so far down that it's really going to change the shape of the line. Like if she looks way down, then when she looks back up, this is all going to be in a way different place than I thought it was. So keeping that elevation low, even when you're doing the carving, think of it as like you're creating your line, you're creating your one length, except we're layering the one length in. I know it's like a little bit, sounds funny, like a combination of things, but that's really what the thought is. Just a soft line. But the elevation is low, the tension is low, and there's no other direction. So it has the elements of one length with the feeling of a layer. That's going to be just a little too long in some spots. We'll come in and just tighten that up a teeny bit. And then remember, you want to come across, and then if anything's too long with your point cut, we're just going to come and clean it up. But I want there to be, some movement. I don't want it to just look like a little serrated line. I want to see these points. I want it to like really kind of come together. You can see like we're starting to get a little bit of movement. We can see the hair kind of grouping together nicely. A lot of fun texture happening.
Another question.
Sure.
What if someone has low density hair and wants this look? Would you just skip the carving with the weight?
I think that's a great question. If someone has low density hair and they want this look, should you skip the carving? I think that's definitely an option. Or you could do less of the carving or start the carving lower. You don't have to go as deep as I'm going. M-Chen has a mountain of hair. So you got a lot of hair, yeah. So we are starting pretty high up because I really want to break that up. If they have very, very fine, low density hair, you could just whittle out the length to create that feeling. Or if you still want to create a little more negative space, really having that negative space helps push the hair into these petals. So some of it I think is good, but you can tailor it to do anything you want. You could use this exact same technique to cut fringe, to cut actual layers, and we will do all of that here in a minute. So remember, it's like every little step of a haircut, these techniques, you can take them and make your own haircuts out of it. Anything can change at any moment. We're going to clip this up maybe just a little bit higher. Oh. Go. There we go. And look, once you figure out your rhythm, the speed can go kind of quick. We can say carve, 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 and we're just reducing that weight, bring in those points right down. Then we come across and refine.
Someone's asking, carving takes place of layering? Question mark?
The carving, someone says, does carving take the place of layering? Well, we are actually going to add some more formal layering as far as like we're going to see some shorter lengths cascading when we're done. But really, I'd say carving is taking the place of a razor when we're working on dry hair. I don't love to use a razor on dry hair. I find that more often than not, the hair feels a little bit more damaged if we use a razor on dry hair. And again, it's like we want to have an option for clients that just really don't like a razor on their hair, but they want that soft, undone feeling. So this is just giving you softness, and it has the feeling of something being layered, because what does layering do? You know, we only have 3 things that we do when we're cutting hair. We do lines, layers, graduation. Each one of those things does something a little bit different. Graduation builds weight. You know, lines, they create a frame. They all come to the same place. And layers are going to remove weight, and they make things look softer, leaner, skinnier. So when we're carving this out, we're making it look softer, leaner, skinnier. So it kind of has a layered vibe, but layers are usually cut at 90. This is still held down at 0. So it's kind of the combination of things. You can see as we start to build it up, you can see like all the hair just wants to, it gives you all these little points of interest, all these nice little petally moments there. She can't even see it, but she feels good about it. And again, I'm like balancing, coming back and like rebalancing some stuff. I'm getting long because I'm standing off to the side. In the salon, I want you right behind this. All right, so our last one on this side. I don't know if you guys can hear that Spice Girls in the background, but it's my personal playlist that we have on. It goes Spice Girls, ABBA, and what are they called again? They sing Love Shack.
Oh, I don't know.
The B-52s.
Those, yeah.
The C-31s. Look down just a little bit. Condense those points, and then we're carving, creating these little soft, pretty petals. That way, you know, it's all going to just have this undone, natural feeling to it. We still have plenty more to do from here. Cutting is repetitive. You know, people are like, "Oh, he's doing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes it's boring to watch." I'm like, "Well, it's a haircut."
How would this work on wet hair, or only do on dry hair?
I think that you have the option of doing this on wet hair as well. Things to think about: when the hair is wet, it's going to group together, it clumps together a little bit, and you may end up taking out too much. I think the great thing about doing this on dry hair is that it's basically instant gratification hair cutting. I see the weight and movement right away. If I did this on wet hair and then I dry the hair, I probably have a good bit of dry refinement that I need to do, and I might end up having to do it twice. So doing something like this on dry hair to start, for me, makes the most amount of sense because it's just the easiest way to do it. I have less dry refinement later. But if I was doing it on wet hair, I'd probably do it with a razor, and I would pop the razor in, I would whittle out corners, and then I would just carve in my length at the bottom. Okay, so I'll have you turn.
Which way?
Towards the camera.
Hi, everyone.
It's M-Chan. Big surprise. All right, so now we'll have you keep your shoulders square and then look all the way to the side. There we go. So when I'm doing this in the front, I like to take a diagonal back section so that I can always keep that front corner in my view. I want to know where the longest piece is going to be, the most forward piece will be. I've got my guides from the back. You can see I got the guide right here from where I cut in the back, my shorter pieces. I'm going to lean her and then put a little bit of tension. We're going to whittle through. Keep in mind that you usually have less weight here in the front, so maybe dial that whittling back some. You don't need to get too crazy. Then we're going to come to the bottom and carve these points into the length that we want to see. And then again, you come back down, cut in your fingers, and refine right after that. We could probably do this in, oh hey, we could probably do this in 2 panels here in the front. Oh, watch the earrings.
I wore my biggest earrings for that.
And you can see this one right here, it's like this top bit. There's not much hair left, so we're going to skip the carving, and we're just going to come and like whittle our length in from there down to points just like that. Cool. Look straight ahead for me. Keep moving the hair around too. It's like you want to like actually look at it. That's a funny thing. Like we're so stuck in following the steps of a haircut. Sometimes we forget to just Move the hair. Look at the hair. What is happening? You know. Cool. Like those lengths. Is there a long one? Oh, we got one long one. I like that she keeps saying cute and she can't see it.
I saw
Perfect.
Like that bit. The corner of my eye.
All right, now have you look this way now. And then bagel back. Whoop. We'll clip that up. I'm actually going to step over here, and you'll see we'll start our whittling, but we have less weight in the front, so I'm doing just a little less whittling than I did in the back. And then I'm bringing this down again. I can see my little points of interest, maybe just one more right there. We want to take some weight out. And then we'll come in and start to carve in those petals and create the length that we want to see. Now, before I move on from there and drop down the next one, I'm going to have her look straight ahead, and I'm going to double check for balance. Because if something is like long or short on that side, I don't want to keep going and then end up with more to correct later. So I think this side, we got to take a little bit of this corner out. Okay. Now I'll have you look back this way. Take down our next panel. And then we're just going to carve in our length. So short to long, short to long, short to long. Looking for like soft C-shaped cuts. That's a little tongue twister. All right, and then straight ahead. And then again, we double check our length, our weight. We see where our corners are. I think that looks good. Maybe we're just a little heavy on this side. So look back this way for me. Oh no, they're turning the lights off on us.
Okay.
What's happening?
Well, that's
Oh no, it's getting worse. What a beautiful spotlight we have now.
wait, it's so nice.
It's actually kind of cool.
It makes me feel really good about getting my hair cut.
This is not the first time that we've worked in these conditions. I once taught a class in Long Island, and it looks good. The light
Yeah, the light
looks
is
awesome.
It's moody.
And it was in this beautiful space that it was all windows all the way around, and the light was so perfect until about 5 o'clock when the sun went down, and we realized there was no overhead lights in the space, and it was all sunlight, and it was completely pitch dark. And the hotel brought in a bunch of lights that a mechanic would use, like garage lights, and set all those up, and we did a whole thing in the spotlight.
Someone said, are the scissors carving scissors or just standard scissors?
These aren't like a dry cutting scissor or anything like that. This is just a regular old 5.5 scissor, slightly offset, but not necessarily meant for wet or dry. I think that they're great for both. I personally don't love a dry cutting scissor because it really only is meant for carving and sliding, and as soon as you try to cut classic with it, it folds the hair. So I think you could learn to do it without, but buy stuff, yeah. Buying stuff is fun, so you can buy whatever you want. Okay, so let's have you sit down now, turn this chair, and we're going to go towards the spotlight always for the rest of this. Okay. So, now we're going to start to put in, some layers through the front. I mean, she kind of has it a little bit already, but we're going to open it up more, and we're going to start to push this corner back a little bit. She was like, ooh, I like that this one's sort of mullety or something you said earlier. So, we're going to play with that idea without getting too deep into mullet town. We want to be in layer land and not Mulletville. I don't know what I'm saying now. So I've separated out the horseshoe section here, just right at the parietal, so I can see what's going on with this internal corner. This is what we want something to start to feel mullety. You got to take more of this corner away. This needs to get layered out. But again, I don't want her to feel like she has a mullet. Mullets are cool, but only if you all the way wanted a mullet. If you didn't want one, then it's not as good.
Not a half mullet.
And she wants a half mullet. She wants a diet mullet.
You gotta go bigger than that.
Mullet light. All right, so we're going to go like this. We're pushing this forward. Oop, and we're wrapped around another earring. Here we go. So we're pushing this forward. I can see this is the actual length, that little bottom corner right there represents the length. So I could layer all of this off and still have enough of that front corner to make it work. So what we're going to do now, hold this low. I'm coming here, and I'm just carving short to long. And I'm sliding as I go. So we're layering, really opening up the face, using a little bit of elevation there. And you see what we've done. We just made this really soft cascade from here to the point right there. again, I really like doing dry cutting because it's so satisfying and it happens so fast. Like when we do a face frame on wet hair, what do we do when we dry it? We dry it and then we texturize it, we refine it to make it softer, to make it blend. But if we're working dry, we don't have to do as much of that because it just all happens at once. So we have put that line in. Now I'm going to come on the inside of this line and we're going to whittle out a little bit more of that way because I just feel like it's a teeny bit too heavy. And she wants it like, she used words like choppy, messy,
Yeah,
we will
like shred the
shred.
stuff out of it.
Shred the stuff out of it. We're going to shred this stuff. All right. So we're going to come through with diagonals now. One further back. And we're going on the inside and just whittling this out. Getting kind of aggressive. I want to see some big, spaces in there. So we really feel this movement is happening the way we want. So we're coming in, keeping the elevation low though, and just really knocking some panels out of that. Cool. Rip her earring out. That's also good. Then we'll come to this panel here. And we're going to do the same thing, same over direction as far as we're going to pull this forward. We are in Mad Max right now. Like, this is crazy. This is the most insane haircut I've ever done. Not the cut, but the situation. Okay, so we're bringing this piece forward now. And we just got to think about, like, how do we want this to sit? I don't want it to get crazy short, maybe just a little cheekbony. We're going to come to the side, over direct. And then we're going to use kind of like, you got to pop over that side. We're going to use a little stroking technique here where we're coming in and we're closing on the way out. So we go in, out, just to create softness. Everything is like cut in these little C shapes right now so that it just feels really soft. It all reads really soft. So over direct and carve. And we're not even like really teasing the hair or anything. We wouldn't do that because bullying is wrong. No. It's like terrible jokes, but I love them.
The knee slapper.
Yeah. So you can see this is like just, I call it a stroking technique. I actually learned it from watching a buddy of mine named Ira Pope Sage. When I was 18 years old, I watched him do that, and I've been doing it ever since. So here's my guide, that short hair right on the inside. I'm going to over direct, slide past my guide, and then I'm coming in and just carving. We're like coming in, closing on the way out. In, out. So you're making all these little short to long cuts, over directing forward and to the side. So we bring this forward. We can see, again, there's our guide right there. We slide past it. When the guide falls out, I know I'm in the right place to start, and then I start to do that stroke. We'll bring this back now, and we'll just start to see, what did we make? You can see like this really opens up this corner. Let's compare the two corners, the two sides. So you can see this side, we get in the light every time we move. We really open up. So like look a little this way. You can see we get all that beautiful softness and flow. And then if we look at this side, I mean, it already had some layer, but it's just bulkier, heavier. It doesn't want to push back quite as much. So let's remember the steps that we took. We're going to come out right here by the parietal, separating that. This is like her heavier side. So I think I'm going to maybe even include a little bit more of that weight. More lights are turning off. Oh, they're back. We did it. Thank you. Wonderful. That was awesome. Move this remote control. Now, on this side, we're taking those diagonal back sections. We're coming down and forward. We can get a little guide from the opposite side. It's going to be visual. I just want to see how much weight did we take out. We keep our elevation low. Try to remember the elevation you had on the other side because you need to do the same thing. And we carve it short to long, short to long. We slide as we carve, just like that. Bring this one forward. We're not lifting all the way up here right now. We're just kind of creating the face frame, so kind of low elevations. My guide's right here. This is where I need to start, where that piece is falling out. Oh, careful. This is all going great. Now, we're going to do the same thing again that we did on the other side. So we put in that face frame, which actually I've got a little too much corner here. We'll nibble out a little bit. Just because you're cutting softly doesn't mean that you need to be cutting randomly. This still needs to be accurate. There's like reason to the madness. And then we come in and we're just knocking this weight out. I'm going to have her look a little more this way. I'll come a little further back.
Okay, can I have my phone? Can I do a little POV moment?
Oh, you want to?
Yes, please. Thank you.
There's just a little too much of this corner still. I'm just going to reduce that down. And then we're just knocking out the weight. So we bring this forward. Getting bold with it. I really want to see some of that weight get cut out of there.
Yeah.
And then come all the way to the back. We'll do it in this back corner as well. And just get in there. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. I've been scared my whole life until today.
Yeah, shred the shit out of it. So good.
And now you finally saw yourself.
Looks cute.
We're actually still we got a little too much over here. She got one hair on her lip. Can I get it?
I do. Yeah. I thought I got it.
Nope. I didn't
What if
get
it was
We're gonna leave
attached?
I've had that before. Where you go to get a hair off of a client and you're like, oh, that's growing out of you. Didn't realize that. And I'm just moving the hair around, like feeling for the weight, feeling for the length, making sure that I've just balanced it. It's like weight distribution. That's kind of what we're doing right now. So it's not just shape, but it's weight at the same time. We have another model coming up. We'll see where we end up doing that. But she's also one of my favorite karaoke hosts that we've found here in Nashville. So we'll have one more lesson for you guys. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing. This is a visual guide. She kind of wears a side part. We're over 30. We do the side parts. No. So we got to make sure that these are visually balanced and not just actually balanced, because this has further to travel than this. So if they have the same length, it's going to be unbalanced. So we just have to make it like sit in the right place without actually, matching it. So we're going to over direct, and it's not as much off of this one. And we come in and we start to carve things out. It's like a slight diagonal section there. Over direct. And then stroke, 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 stroke. And we just have a stationary guide with this, so everything comes to the same place. You're going to notice once you get to the back, this is where we start to have more coming off. Like, look at all that. That's all got to get cut because we're using the fringe as a guide. So more of that weight will start to come off. Just keep every one of those scissor connections really short to long, really super soft. Like when you see these ends, they look very shattered, very shreddy. And that's the goal. We're picking this up, pulling things forward. Remember, if you have any questions on there, please feel free to ask, and I will pretend I know the answer. That's looking good. And we're coming all the way to the crown, just all the way back. Now, same thing, over direct forward, stationary guide, so you got to pick up all the hair. But what's great about cutting this is that you don't end up holding all the hair. You hold it all at first, you slide past your guide when it falls out, then you start to cut. So I always think like cutting with this way or cutting with the razor is easier, especially for like those big stationary guide moments, because you don't actually have to cut holding all the hair, so it's easier to control the hair. Now we're going to take more weight out of this side because this is the heavy side. So I'm just over directing one more time, just kind of flipping over and then coming in and just knocking more of that weight out. Same one here. Flipping over, because I want this weight that I take out to be on the inside. So if I bring it over like this, and I really get in there, then when I bring it back, that weight that I cut out is actually living on the inside of that, and it's not on the very surface of the hair. So we do our last one like this. And we'll knock that weight out. Now I miss the music. Cool. Now, we've got all this layer and everything happening in the front. We're molding and moving the hair around to see, like, what's going on. Is it working the way you wanted it to? That's very important. Yeah, this is opening up really beautifully. I still think we've got a little something there. So that's when you come in and you start to do your visual refinements. You're putting your signature on the look at that point. You follow all the steps, but then you have to come back through and visually tweak and change things. I'm coming low. I'm getting low. This side, too long.
Should I not cross my legs right now?
I don't believe in the legs cross thing. You know that. It's like lice. It's made up. We don't. We come to the back now. Let's rotate your chair a little bit. You want to stand up for just a second? I'm going to turn you this way. You can sit back down, face that way. And then I'll have you come over here with the camera. So, we've got our layer in the front. Now we want to add our layer in the back. We can use a guide from the front. So we just pick up our guide from the front. Like this was over-directed forward. Now we bring it back. Very simple. Vertical sections here. And like I'm listening, it's easier to do this because she's a hairdresser. So like the terms she uses they're more descriptive. Like I can understand what she wants. Sometimes if it's a client, they're not going to know what to say. But she's saying things like shreddy. So it tells me what techniques I can use to make this happen. So look up a tiny bit for me. We've got our guide. And we've got all this weight through here. It's too heavy. So we're going to come out, looking for like where that guide starts to fall out. Right about there. And then we're going to use that same stroking technique while we slide to really collapse this down in the back and break that weight up. And we're just going to pivot our sections around the back until we get to the corner. And the corner is where we're getting that guide, so we're not going to have to worry about that. Let's both take a little step to our left. I like to test people to see if they know right from left. So we're just really breaking this weight up in a very, very soft way. Now I've got a guide from the top and I've got my guide from the middle. We're pivoting again. Because we're not over-directing all the way back, we're following the shape of the head with this.
Could you get the same effect with a feather blade?
Like a feather razor? Yeah. Can you get the same effect with a feather blade? And I think what they mean is a guarded feather razor. I think you can get a very similar effect with a razor. Everything we're doing right now is to make this look like a razor cut, but we did it on dry hair. So if you're a razor cutter and you like to do that, you can do this wet, follow all the same steps, create the same negative space and movement, but you would do it with the razor. I think it's a really great way to do it. So here's our guide, and we come in and really start to soften this out, break that up. We're sliding as we go. Traveling guide, so I'm walking around with each section. Every time I cut, I take a little step in the direction of my new section so that I'm not over-directing too far back and things don't get too heavy. Carve, 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 go, go. It's pretty fun. Don't get crazy. Make sure you're doing it for a reason and not just doing it because it's fun. Like texture, taking a weight is probably the most fun thing in cutting, I think, is like texturizing. Like now we got all this beautiful like shaggy layer and softness in there. But you know what? She still is like kind of heavy. So you know what is fun to do? We're going to do a 2-tiered layer right now. So now we've got this in on the surface. We're going to come to the center back of the head. We're separating that out. And I'm going to clip this up. And then, down in here, look down a little bit. We're going to take vertical sections. We're going to lift this up. And I'm going to take some of this corner out. So we're just going to come and cut some of that corner out from the inside, which is going to give us 2 layers. We have the layer on the surface, and then we have the layer underneath, which is just reducing the weight and creating more negative space. It creates more movement that way. So here's our corner. We're literally just going to come and cut that corner off and then do some little deep point cuts right below that. And we're just pivoting around, looking for the corner. So there it is. We cut it. We reorganize. We do some deep point cutting. We'll come back to the center. We'll go this way. One more. So like when I pick this up, you can see the corner. Like there it is. I see a corner. There's a corner. We're going to literally just pick it up, cut the corner off of it, and then break it up. The satisfying sounds of deep point cutting.
So satisfying.
We lift up. There's our corner. We've got a guide, like right there is the shorter hair from the previous section. That may be a little bit too big of a section, actually. So I'm going to recomb. And we're going to cut that off and then point cut through. And you can be, when you get confident, you can do that in one cut. Like, you don't need to do 1,000 open and closes with the scissor all the time. Like, you could do it in many if you want. Like, you go like. But if you can just knock it out in one, you're feeling good about it, do it. Boom. Cool. And then we're in the corner again, making sure I'm not including hair from the top. Cut that off. Point cut through. Last thing we're going to do is maybe just take a little weight out of this section on the top with vertical panels. So I'm actually going to take a step in this direction because I want to point my scissor up. We can get a little double check of this too. Will give us the ability to kind of cross-check that section. And we can come on the inside and just take a little more out of this. I'm not getting too close to the scalp though. You don't want to like have little sprigs of hair like popping up at the crown. We're just taking more of that weight out, make that a little bit softer. Again, it also gives me the opportunity to just refine, which it's basically there, you know. But again, just like when we did the perimeter, I don't want like one long hair or something in there. And when you're doing like a stroke or a carve or a tease with your scissor, you might need to come back and do a little refinement. And that's totally fine. No need to be a hero, you know. You don't have to do it in one. M-Chen is like all the way adult emo person as well.
I'm
Like,
an elder emo.
she's an elder emo just like me. And to me, this has a little bit of that feeling, you know, like something that's really shreddy, really layered out.
Like I wanted to give like Hawthorne Heights.
She says she wants to feel like it's Hawthorne Heights. She wants to feel like her heart is in Ohio. And we're just whittling, taking more of that weight out. And I think that's looking really cool. We've got a really like sort of super duper soft feeling. You know, I used a picture of Julianne Hough as inspiration. Some of my favorite hairdressers do her cut and color, and it's just, you know, one of my favorite looks usually is always on Julianne. And we've just taken that, and I think we've made it a little bit edgier, a little bit more alternative. Again, now I'm just moving it, and then I'm looking at the movement that's in it, trying to decide, do I need to tweak it? Do I need to change it? We followed all the steps, and now we just come in and we add our signature. Like, I feel like this looks a little too heavy, so I'm whittling that out. And then I'm moving the hair around to see if anything else kind of stands out to me as being too heavy, or if it needs a little bit more, like right here maybe. And this is all visual at that point. Like, we're literally just looking at it, moving it, and seeing if we like it. I'm feeling pretty good about it now.
Is it cute?
I think so. So now let's grab a little bit of product. Shh. What did I do with it? Oh, it's in my bag. I want to use two different things. We're going to use our texturizing spray, and we're going to use a shine spray. Check it out. Look at this new packaging too. Don't you guys love it? Looks super high-end, super clean, super cool. And I just love all the new products as well. If you haven't gotten into the new Style Sign stuff, you need to. You won't regret it. The scents as well they're out of this world. So, this is the shine spray. It's a spray. It makes things shiny. And that's what we're going to do with it. It's just moisture as well, you know. It's like, I want to... And if you're wanting to go full emo, you have to put the whole can. Go all the way grease pit with it. And then this is our dry texture spray. My go-to really is the dry texturizing spray. It was the creative texture, which I do like that one, but this from Style Sign is just so nice. And look how soft it is too. You're getting no powder in her hair. It doesn't look like we just antiqued her or something, you know?
Antique.
You know that? Getting antiqued? The only boys did that? Where you take a bunch of baby powder and you just smack your friend with it? Really? We call it antiquing. And this is just giving her volume and definition. And, you know, off camera, I'll probably come in and we can do a little bit of stuff like with a curling iron, put a little wave in it. We'll just play with it and see what other options we have. But I think it's really cool, even just feeling undone. This is just her you blew it dry? What'd you do?
Sadie blew it out yesterday.
Just a regular round brush from the day before, and that's how we worked on this. And in the salon, I would do that kind of thing all the time. I'm like literally working on natural texture, air-dried texture. Sometimes I'll curl the hair and then cut it, just to create new experiences, new like feelings for the client, you know? Here, sit up a little bit. We'll get you out of this cape, and I'm gonna have you stand up and turn to me, and we'll take a look at what you look like.
Cool. Love that.
All right, so pop up. And how about you come around to the front?
Where am I standing?
Right where you are. And look down a tiny bit.
Ooh, it feels so cute.
You see what I mean? Like, we get all this softness and flip and movement really easy. And we didn't do anything to style it. I mean, I literally just cut it. We cut that style right in. Hold on, where's my scissor? There's a long piece. Is there? Sometimes I'll get tricked. But there we go. Just a little bit. I want there to be hair on her clothes. Okay. And the volume that she gets now too, like when we turn and we look at her profile, or you can look straight ahead, just straight ahead. And then I'm going to turn your shoulders so that we're seeing the profile. But because we get all of this like lift and everything through the top, I mean the texture is really fun. I love it. Shred.